Hello everybody, welcome on in. It's a new week here on the Betting Weekly Studios, and we start every week with a trip into the Betting Weekly Dojo. I'm your host, Nigel Seeley, and before I introduce you to my co-host, Neil Channing, professional gambler, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, give us a comment, any things you want us to talk about here on the Dojo, anything you're having the problems with in the world of sports betting, any rules you don't understand, any advice you want along the way, just give us a little comment here and we'll sure to bring it up over the next couple of weeks or so. Neil, good morning or good afternoon. We're filming a bit later today. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. How are you, Neil?
You can tell by the clock what time it is. You just need to look at the clock. I'm all right, I guess. I had a weird one in last week. I had a bad week on the NFL. And I didn't have a bad week. I won, but I kind of misstaked a bit. I couldn't get on a couple. And even though I'd won money, I came to you on the dojo a bit fed up. This week I've lost money, and I felt like I should have lost much more. So that's weird, isn't it? This week I'm happy when I lost money, and last week I won money and I was sad. So that shows you the mentality of punters, doesn't it?
So the American football last night, you thought, where did it go wrong? What happened? Is it player props again, or was there?
Yeah, player props, lots of bets, and just if you like a bit over Christian McCaffrey receiving yards, he scored a touchdown, so I could have bet him to score a touchdown, but I chose to bet him over his yards. When someone's about 50 yards as their number, they're probably not that likely to score a touchdown. Although he's a running back as well, so he can, obviously he's got two ways of scoring. I don't know. There were just a bunch of things. I felt like I had a couple. I've been getting a lot of games this year where I get the guy who's that team's top receiver. He catches 9 passes for 85, 105 yards, and he doesn't score a touchdown. And I've chosen to bet him score a touchdown rather than go, over 78.5 or something like that. That seems to have happened a lot, but mostly the last 2 weeks, it's just I've been a little bit struggling to get down, and having to really kind of put the effort in to get the bets on. And last week just didn't manage to get enough bets on, and had a winning, really, the ones I was trying to get on, smashed it out of the park. Didn't really feel like I won enough. This week, feel like I should have absolutely done my absolutes, and I've actually just lost a small amount. So I'm feeling delighted, really, about that. I know, it's a funny week, isn't it? Because it was a big horse racing week in the UK. It was one big meeting over 3 days. So I was very involved in that. And obviously with the international break, I was much less involved in the soccer this week. But you got stuck into the soccer, didn't you? I didn't really get so involved.
Well, I mean, the first thing I will say, I mean, the just moving on before we go into the soccer, the Cheltenham weekend is obviously the build up for the big race meeting here, the National Hunt season. It's a big meeting over here at Cheltenham. It still brings me up my favourite racing story ever. I'm sure I've told it on the dojo before, but I know a lot of people might have been here before. It's and we mention the man every time we come on this show. We always mention Tony Bloom, and Tony Bloom had a horse running called Little Josh in that meeting a couple of years ago, a few years back, maybe long, like 10 years ago now. And my friend was a friend of Tony Bloom, and Tony Bloom asked him if he could pick up the trophy for him on his behalf because he was away in Australia. And he said, I've got a horse called Little Josh. He says, it won't win, but if you can go there, pick up the trophy if anything happens and look after my box and just represent me on the day. He went, no problem. I mean, it was a bad day. Little Josh plodded around, but all these other horses fell. Little Josh won at 40 or 50 to 1. And my mate was picked up the winning cheque, massive rugby cheque, and he had the trophy, the gold trophy, and he was queuing up at the bookies, and a guy behind him turned around and said, we're going to be here all day waiting for you to pick your winnings up. And he turned around and said, no, I had £5 or $7 each way on the second. Still one of the greatest ever stories. You may have heard it before, but I love that story. So it's a good opportunity to get one out there. Yes, international football was good for me. A few good things happened to me this weekend. I went to England at Wembley with Jack Wright. We went to watch the England game. I bet England to win 1-0. And the last kick of the well, I bet under 1.5 goals in play. The last kick of the game cost me 2-0 there. But England won 10-0, which was a very, very good price and a common theme for England in the European Championship.
They've absolutely
Everyone
smashed it in their qualifying, haven't they? And I saw they have shortened a bit for the World Cup to win the World Cup itself. They're about 6-1 now, aren't they? Is that a good price?
Yeah. Listen, you're talking to England's number one fan here. Ask someone who's negative about England. I've been saying for years it's coming home and it's never come home.
Are you on?
I think this is I couldn't bet them at 6-1. No, I couldn't.
Do you think that's an interesting? It's an interesting question, though, isn't it? Because bookmakers in the States, especially, I remember there was a World Cup that was in the States when America were there and they qualified and they were doing quite well. And every single bookie in America said that our worst result would be the US to win the World Cup. And bookmakers in the UK, it's exactly the same thing. Even though we think of this as a very sophisticated international market now, the local market is not so important as stuff that's happening in Asia, stuff that's happening in Dubai, stuff that's happening in America. But still, for bookies in the UK, and I'm talking big bookmakers, I'm talking big brands like William Hill and stuff like that, they're going to turn around and say, if England win the World Cup, we're going to just get smashed to pieces. The punters are absolutely going to kill us.
No way. I think they'll lose on a match-to-match basis, won't they, from the quarterfinals, semi-finals? But I don't think anyone bets teams anymore anti-post to win the World Cup. I mean, the trouble is there's so much margin. There's so many factors in this World Cup. I mean, it's a World Cup like no other World Cup we've had before, which I can't wait for anyway. 48 teams are going to be involved. There's, I think, 8 groups of 4. Was 8 groups of 4, isn't it? Yes. No, that's more than that. Was it 12 groups of 4, isn't it? 12 groups of 4, which is insane. And we're going to have huge difference in terms of conditions where they're going to be drawn. I mean, this is the most important thing for me, because the travelling is going to be a nightmare. You're going to have different climates. I mean, if England get drawn, I don't know, if England get drawn on in Miami, I wouldn't want to be backing them up to qualify from the group in that heat, against South American sides. I mean, it'll be like virtually every game's an away match if they were playing a South American side over in Miami. But if they get a favourable draw in, say, Boston or Canada or someone on the east coast of America, then there might be a decent price at that. And obviously, you've got to remember we're 7 months away, and there are going to be some big name casualties who aren't going to make that World Cup. So looking at England now at 6-1, they've done everything right. They've played 8, they've won 8, they haven't conceded a goal, won every 1-0, which is a great bet. Something that we cashed on at the weekend as well. But at this moment in time, would I bet them? No. I mean, I was trying to. I want to go to the World Cup. I've already spoke to the guys at Bet Rivers and said, I want to go to the World Cup. Whether I'm working for Bet Rivers doing stuff out there, or whether I'm going to go myself, I want to go to the World Cup. At least one game.
I can't believe you. The first thing you said was, I've had a word with the people at Bet Rivers. I thought you were going to say, I've had a word with the missus. I thought that was going to be the main question.
She understands now. The thing is, I mean, just take one of these groups. So, for example, Group B.
Yes.
The matches are going to be in Canada, San Francisco, and Seattle. Then Group F, Dallas, Mexico, Houston, and Kansas. Now, can you imagine travelling from one? What it's going to cost you to go from one match to the second match to the third match? Group L, Toronto, Dallas, Boston, New York, Philly.
That's crazy.
Where we got here? Mexico and Atlanta in Group A.
Yeah.
Philly, Houston, Toronto, Kansas, New York in Group E. You know, the last World Cup we went to, they took one railway line went up, one railway line went across, and you can get to every single World Cup venue in 2 stops on an underground train.
It's the climate change World Cup. Yeah, they're going to be the global footprint of the World Cup is not going to be good.
It's not very good. Anyway, one thing that was good at the weekend is if you were betting Harry Kane and our good friend Erling Haaland.
Two amigos this weekend.
Mbappe didn't play, but Erling Haaland played 2 matches in World Cup qualification and scored 2 or more in both of them, including 2 in a very impressive 4-1 win for Norway over in Italy. What a result that was. He scored 2 in both games, and Harry Kane got 2 for England against Albania again. The gift that keeps on giving, and those 2, as we said along the way. No draws in the test matches as well, so that was over pretty quick. So, I mean, some of the trends we've highlighted here are winning.
They were pretty easy ones. Just on Haaland, I see Norway are now about 22 to 1, 25 to 1 to win the World Cup. Not that long ago, they were 60 to 1. Has all the value gone now? Are people getting carried away? Is it just Haaland they're betting on?
Well, they're a very good team. I mean, they've got Odegaard. They've got some quality players as well. I mean, they're not just a one-man team. They're a very good team. But if he is injured, they treble in price, don't they? I mean, that's how much important he is. I think they, would you fancy Iceland if they were playing him in Miami in July? I don't think talking about teams that want climate. I don't know if the Icelandic players would really fancy that kind of conditions. It's their first World Cup I don't know if it might be their first World Cup ever. It's certainly for a long time. But I think every World Cup we go into, there's always a team that get backed, isn't there? Colombia. I remember Colombia famously in the 1990 World Cup. I remember there's a Belgium striker called Joseph Weber. Do you remember
Belgium seemed to always be the team, weren't they? They were always like the dark horse. But who's the team of the big name ones that you would think as a fade at the moment? Like who's the one out of the top kind of 8 that you just can't really have?
There's a lot more people on this channel who are much better guided than me to win this. I think Spain at plus 450 are the right favourites, but I think they're short. I think they should probably be $6. I think England should be 8. France, they're suddenly, you never know what if they get hit or miss. They could win it easily or they're complete fade. And England have been close against France. Spain battered England in the Euro final. Remember that as well.
Brazil still just me, kind of there on their name a little bit.
I think they're a little. Yeah, I think they'll be the one. Argentina, I think they'll be a fade as well. Messi, 4 years older when they won the World Cup. Portugal look a better team without Ronaldo. I mean, Italy, I haven't even qualified. They're 6 favourites. Holland, I can never have. Germany, I can never have. I genuinely think the best 2 teams in the world are the top 2 at the market, but I'd have them bigger. I think Spain should be 6 and England should be around about 750, something like that, because we don't know. Dark horses at this moment in time. Ecuador. I think there's a lot talking about Ecuador could be a good side. Colombia, a 40 to 1, obviously, if they get drawn in a nice part of the world. But I think the gap between the top and the bottom, like most sports, is getting wider. And I think it will be dominated by one of those 4 teams, as we saw at the weekend at the tennis.
I was just going to quickly say, because you mentioned the cricket, I'll just quickly say, so the test matches we had, just to keep people up to date with that, if anyone is thinking about following that, it was Bangladesh Ireland. We were slightly joking. That was kind of funny test match, 2 not great sides. That one actually did last until I think it was like an hour into the 4th day out of 5. So, but it wasn't a huge sweat. I mean, if you faded at 20 to 1, it was out to 40 to 1 after day 1. It was 40 to 1 after day 2. And then it hit 100 to 1 like really quickly. So that was easy. Bangladesh won easily. They're playing again on Wednesday. But there was another one that was a bit of an amazing match actually between India and South Africa. I mean, it's kind of crazy. South Africa scored 150 odd in their first innings, and everybody thought, oh, India are going to do all right now. And India were chasing, obviously they're going to get a big lead in their first innings. They did not get a big lead. South Africa then got 150 in their second innings. So it looked easy for India to wrap it up, maybe in 3 days. That did not work. They were all out for under 100 in their 4th innings. The match actually I think it stretched into the 4th day, as I remember. But South Africa beat India for the first time in 15 years in India. So that was fairly amazing. They play again this week. The draw is plus 1,200. And then, of course, the Ashes starts on Friday, the big England against Australia. The betting there is Australia minus 125. This is on the first match. England plus 150, and the draw there is plus 1,200. I mean, I don't know. We're close to December now, and we've still only had 2 draws in the whole year. It's been good. It's still been good, this system. Keep running, boys. Keep running. It's all going to be fine.
Yep, keep on that. And obviously, the Ashes will be covered. If you're new to cricket, BetRivers will have it available on the app. It's the biggest test series on the cricket calendar, and it starts this week, as Neil just said there. Just talking about, I mean, just mentioning there about, we're talking about the dominance of the top teams in the World Cup, and we mentioned it of a dojo about 3 months ago about how far clear the best in the world are getting in certain sports. And Yannick Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz played in the Tour Championship this week. The top 8 players in the world, they didn't drop a set all the way to the final when they played each other in the final, inevitably. The start of the week, it was minus 140 Yannick Sinner, plus 140 Carlos Alcaraz. Any price you want, the rest of them. That's the best 8 in the world. And it went to the form, but they both played in the final yesterday. We saw in the darts as well, Luke Littler and Luke Humphries, the top 2 in the world, beat everybody fairly comfortably, got to the final and played out a match yesterday.
And you see who won the golf as well? You see who won the golf?
It was, who won the golf?
Rory McIlroy.
Oh, he won the Tour
Well,
Championship.
he won, yeah, because it wasn't like a regular tournament, but yeah, he won the trophy basically. So it kept up your theme of like the top people winning every week.
They are the gap between the top and the bottom is crazy. And I'm looking at the Australian Open prices now already to just highlight that how big the gap is between the top and the rest. If we're looking at the men's, obviously the tennis season is over now; it comes back in January. Yannick Sinner plus 120. That's Yannick Sinner with Bet Rivers now is plus 110. Carlos Alcaraz is plus 150. So they're taking up, what's that? 40%, and that's 97% of the book.
Yeah,
it's taken up by Sinner and Alcaraz. I mean, it's
if you knocked out the bookies' profit margin, you're basically saying they're about 85% to win it between the two of them, which is kind of crazy, really.
Incredible. Listen to this for a stat, though. So Sinner and Alcaraz played on Sunday in the final. It was their 16th meeting between the two of them. And in 16 meetings, there has been 3,302 points of tennis played. Carlos Alcaraz leads the head-to-head 10-6, right?
Yeah.
What do you reckon they both got points each?
So you're going to say it was like virtually a tie?
1,651 points each, exactly the same.
Exactly 50. A tie?
How incredible is that?
That is incredible.
Exactly a tie.
Wow.
What a stat that is.
I mean, I'd like
across
to think
16 matches.
I'd like to think that you just decided to sit there at home and work that out for fun one afternoon this week. I got a feeling you read that somewhere, but that's an excellent point.
I read that somewhere. I read that somewhere this morning, and I couldn't believe it. It blew my mind.
That's
3,302 points. What price would that be? I mean, mathematically, that's got what that's got.
Big price to tie.
It's incredible that. Anyway, and the darts, Luke Littler showed his dominance with the win over Luke Humphries. And Luke Littler, I'm telling you, we don't give tips on this show, but I'm telling you now, anything plus money, Luke Littler to win the World
Championship. Sounds like you're about
to
give a tip.
In a few weeks time. But I'm betting him. I'm betting him at plus.
What price is he?
Anything like plus 120. Around about plus 120, I think.
And when the World Championship starts, it starts about 3 weeks time.
Middle of December.
Yeah,
middle of December. Yeah. I mean, he's just on a different level. He's absolutely, and he's just on a different, and he's getting better and better and better.
He does look,
but
unbeatable.
I'm just talking about the dominance of these players. I mean, these guys are playing different levels. Now, it is what we call over in America. It's a sandwich week in fixtures in the world of soccer this weekend. So, sandwich week. Now, what that means is we were looking at the difference between teams' performances after an international break. Then they have a domestic match. Then they have a Champions League match, and then they had a domestic match. So there's four.
Yeah, basically, basically, the sandwich is all about emotional letdown, isn't it? It's about having your high intensity followed by 2 matches time, another high intensity, and the one in the middle where you expect an emotional letdown and a lesser than normal performance. And we had that situation where a bunch of players went to play for their countries in the international break. They're going to play a domestic match the next game they play, but the following match will be a super important Champions League match. And we reckoned, we were talking about this a few weeks ago, that you want to fade these guys, their teams, when they're playing that middle domestic just league match. Tell me you've done all the homework for me, Nigel.
I have done some homework for you, and it's not what we expected, actually. That's why I thought I was going to say it. It hasn't come out. So basically, what I've done is I've gone through the last 5 international breaks, and I've looked at every team that was involved in Champions League football, so the best teams, how they got on the week before the Champions League, so i.e. after the international break, and then how they got on the following week, which was after the Champions League match.
Okay.
And I think this makes it interesting for him. So what I did, I went through the last 5 international breaks. There's been 2 already this year, and there was 3 at the start of last year.
Yeah.
So the week immediately after the international break, i.e. this weekend across Europe, there was 60 wins for the teams who were playing in Champions League as the favourites across 92 matches. So 65.2% of the teams involved in Champions League matches, who a lot of their players went to international football, still won the following week after the international break, i.e. this week. What is interesting is the following week. So once they've had their domestic match after the international break, then they've played the Champions League, and then their following match, this was the interesting point, that 65.2% dropped from 60 wins, dropped down to 44 wins from 92, which meant only 47% of teams won that match after the Champions League. So they essentially had 4 big matches: international, domestic, Champions League, domestic. And it was the 4th one that caught up with them. And some leagues, for example, the English Premier League, on the 13th of September, we had a international break. Immediately the week after, so this week, the equivalent of the 13th of September, there were 6 teams involved in Champions League football, 5 of them won. After the Champions League, the following week, there were 6 teams involved in Champions League football, only 1 team won. And that seemed to be the kind of common factor from all Champions League matches, from teams involved in Champions League who are involved in international breaks. And I think 2 reasons. I think the intensity of some of the international matches aren't strong. You know, going away to, I don't know, Gibraltar, play your game there, win 2-0. And a lot of players don't feature in those matches. But the intensity of the Champions League match, followed up by the Premier League games, or Serie A, or Bundesliga, or I don't know, it's over Bundesliga, Serie A,
La Liga,
the 4 top leagues. That's what I did it over. And if you look on the 19th of October, which was, I think, last season, home teams after the international break, teams involved in Champions League football, after the international break, teams involved in Champions League won 77.7% of the time. In
their domestic matches.
In their domestic matches, the following week it was 38.88. So a big drop. Big drop. So the time to fade the teams in Champions League action is not after the international break, it's immediately after that Champions League game. So the sandwich match isn't this week, it's next week.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know.
The international break doesn't really make much difference. Doesn't really make much of a difference. Because when you think about it, what price will those top teams start this week? They're all going to be around about 60 to 70% chance, aren't they? If
in their domestic
look at the
matches.
average price, they're going to
that's definitely true. I mean, when
matches.
you said to me they're winning at 65%, I'm thinking, well, you know, that's kind of the price they're going to be, isn't it? The minus 157 is probably a sort of average price for a top team in those divisions. Okay, that's interesting. That's good. Well played. I like that.
But then the following week it drops to plus 105 or plus 110. And you're not going to be an average of plus 110. You're still going to be around a 60 to 70% chance because they're not going to factor that in.
I mean, I always wonder with these things, you know, it's like when we talk about home advantage generally and what, you know, obviously there's many debates in all sports about what constitutes home advantage. Why is there a home advantage? Is it travel? Is it crowds? Is it familiarity with the stadium? Is it, pressure, the way that they approach the game because, you know, they feel like they need to win at home and it's not so important that they win on the road. Like obviously, even if you've gone to, I don't know, Azerbaijan to play a friendly match where you were, minus 2,000, you've still had to fly there and fly back. It's still a stress and a strain, and it takes time out of your training schedule and all that kind of thing, even if it's a really easy game and you don't even play for the full 90 minutes.
Yeah, but I mean, there'd be a lot of these players here who've flown to the other side of South America from their countries. A lot of them. So I think a lot of teams that have got big South American players will feel it a lot more than other sides. But that was a little bit too much hard work. I'll get Dan Roebuck to dive into those stats, to dive into those stats next week. But I think this sandwich factor is a factor. But I do think it's, I didn't realise how much of a difference it made from the Champions League match.
I guess the question
across every single one.
I can already anticipate. Sorry, there's a bit of a lag on our thing, by the way. This week I've got a bit slow internet, sadly. But my internet runs off the grandfather clock. But yeah, no, I was. You see, it took Nigel 10 minutes to laugh at that joke. But I was thinking. I forgot what I was going to say now. I was thinking about the whole. Oh, go on. You say what you were going to say. I've completely forgotten what I was going to say.
No, I was just talking about this trend is a very, very high trend, and it drops consistently across every team in Europe, and that's the way to do it. So, yeah, I thought that the travel would be a problem, but it doesn't seem to be a problem for the big teams in Champions League football, because probably they've got big enough, massive squads to cope for it. But when they go to often international, when they go to Champions League football, the intensity of those matches is much, much more than international football.
I've thought of what I was going to say. I can foresee what people might say in the chat box as a critique of your point, is to say, is it a big enough sample size? How many games did you say you'd looked at? Was it 90 games?
Well, I did there, but I did not. I did the last three. There was 3 international breaks last season and 2 already this season, so I've done 5, so 92 games. I'm sure if we go back, but there's always been a common belief. I mean, I haven't got the data. I'm sure that like some of the big pro punters on this channel and the likes of Will White and all those will all know the statistics, but it always has been. There was always a question before Champions League football to fade teams ahead of a Champions League football match if international break. Well, after an international break, this data that I've done on these matches suggests that's not true. But there has always been, after Europe, you've got to fade the top teams. Or the fourth sandwich game after the international break is the one where you fade them. Yeah, if you go back to the ones where hasn't been an international break, the drop on home success or wins for those favourite teams is still quite high. But it's that fourth match in succession where you go international, domestic, Champions League, domestic. That's the fourth one, is the one where the trend drops down. And I think that's the interesting thing for me, is to find that one, because everyone says, before Champions League and after Champions League failures, you want to be quite wary of teams like that, but it doesn't really stack up.
Well,
but
I'm going to be
like that. It does.
I'm going to be busy anyway on those Champions League, because obviously I'm going to be fading the draw, as we said last week, and all of those. One thing you just reminded me. You mentioned Will White. Did you listen to him talking to Steve Wiss on the Betting Zoo?
Yes, brilliant.
I thought that was a really good episode. If anyone hasn't seen that one, I noticed it wasn't doing like huge numbers, and it deserved to get more eyes on it, really, I thought. So if you haven't looked at that one, maybe go and have a look at Steve Wiss's Betting Zoo. I mean, it's always good, but I thought that one with Will White was particularly good.
It was excellent, very, very good, and he's talking real numbers. He's very open. I mean, he's a big part of the team. We're on Champions League nights, but we don't really. Will's a guy who doesn't really give much away, and and you respect that because he's a very successful gambler. He doesn't really give much away. But on that episode, he was very honest, and he gave a lot away to Steve, which I wasn't expecting. And I thought it was absolutely exceptional. So as Neil said, if you haven't seen that, Steve Wish's Betting Zoo, when he speaks to Will White, it is available on the YouTube channel. If you haven't checked it out, make sure you do check that out. It's a very, very good episode. Just a couple of things before we wrap up, Neil, because I know the internet's pretty poor today, and we're going to move on. I just want to say something. I mean, another thing that's announced about an hour ago before we come on here is this boxing fight. Well, if you allegedly boxing fight, Jake Paul, the YouTuber, has just announced he's going to fight Anthony Joshua, the 2-time former heavyweight champion of the world, who is still an active heavyweight, who is still rated number 5 in the WBC rankings at the moment. Probably one of the best pound for pound boxers that the British public or biggest hitters in the heavyweight game that the British boxing side have ever seen. Now, he's taken on a YouTuber on the 19th of December, the Friday before Christmas. I don't know if Jake Paul will wake up for Christmas or not, but it's staggering, because it's staggering that these kind of things are getting that. And when I speak to Troy, the producer on the Betting Weekly Live, he tells me the boxing is an event that there's no interest in it. No interest. We don't take any money on any boxing fights. Conor Benn v. Christopher Eubank across the pond. Heavyweight titles for Usyk v. Tyson Fury. Nothing. But as soon as Jake Paul fought Mike Tyson last time out, the betting turnover was 100 times anything else they've ever seen. Now, this is obviously a huge money-making thing. I've seen some lines come out already. Minus 1,500 Anthony Joshua, plus $8 Jake Paul. I mean, if it's not bent, if he's not crooked, then him to knock him out or win minus 1,500 is the best bet of all time. I mean, he's probably going to get better than that nearer the time.
Well,
but it reminds me of the Floyd Mayweather fight, wasn't it? The Floyd Mayweather fight against Conor McGregor that was almost 10 years ago now, believe it or not, that fight.
Was that 10 years ago?
That was the one that everyone got... it was about 10 years ago. 9 years ago, I think that was. But that was the first one of these kind of fights. And nobody knew how to price it up, did they? It was crazy.
Well, it was. I mean, I'm old school, obviously. I remember going back to well in the day when, before international betting was really a thing. We used to have a boxer in the UK who everybody loved. He was a great guy, heavyweight, called Frank Bruno. And one day he decided to be the next bloke to get knocked out by Mike Tyson. And Tyson was absolutely battering people for fun. And, his last 4 fights, he'd beaten people at, minus 2,000, minus 1,200, minus 1,400. And suddenly they said, well, we'll give him a go, Frank Bruno. I can't remember I think he beat possibly Joe Bugner, an aged Joe Bugner, which kind of gave him the right to get in this fight.
No, I tell you who he fought. I tell you why he fought, because my dad
Tim
went to every
Witherspoon
one of those boxing
was involved
fights.
in those days.
He fought Tim Witherspoon before that. He fought Tim Witherspoon, and he fought James Bonecrusher Smith, who beat him in almost knocked him out at the Royal Albert Hall, Wembley Arena. But he didn't fight anybody really. He fought a guy called George Coetzee for
South African guy.
He knocked him out about 2 rounds. He was useless. He was the number 1 contender. But it was really a bad heavyweight division then. Tony Tubbs.
Can you remember the betting?
25 stone.
Can you remember the betting on Tyson?
I would guess.
Bruno?
I would say that Tyson would have been around about minus $8, $9.
So the Las Vegas line makers. And obviously there was no internet betting in those days. The Las Vegas line makers put up minus 2,000 Mike Tyson, plus 1,200 Frank Bruno. And, they were probably the same as Bet Rivers today. They were saying, well, when no one's, it was a week before, nobody's walking into a casino with a suitcase full of cash a week before the fight. We're not really doing any business. Who the hell is Frank Bruno anyway? And Mike Tyson is an absolute killer. And he was a Vegas guy. And, I think he lived in Vegas in those days. Over here in the UK, Frank Bruno was a kind of much loved guy. He appeared regularly on the BBC. Boxing was a much bigger deal than it is now on TV in the UK. And the bookies went for minus 600 for Tyson, plus 350 for Bruno. And I remember when it got around to the fight time, you could bet minus 275 Tyson, and it was plus 190 Bruno. But you could still get plus 1,000 in Vegas on Bruno. I mean, this was happy days. I look back. I remember having 2 bets on the fight. One bet was placed via a friend in Las Vegas, and one bet was placed in London. And I sat back and watched it, safe in the knowledge that I was going to have a good night, whatever happened. I think this mental fight that you're talking about, Anthony Joshua, how could anybody bet minus 1,500 when you know that boxing is so crooked generally over the years? We don't even know kind of what the rules of the game are going to be. I mean, hasn't they actually said they're going to have a boxing fight or is there a possibility that they have some kind of martial arts fight?
I can't know. It's an actual boxing fight. It's a boxing fight.
It's definitely going to be a boxing fight.
It's going to be in Miami at the Casey Arena where the basketball is on the
It's
19th
crazy,
of December, the Friday the
well,
19th of December.
I mean, obviously with the Mayweather fight against what's his name, the internet guy, against Conor McGregor. That was kind of ridiculous as well, wasn't it? I think you could bet. I think at one stage you could bet minus 250 on the boxer to beat the MMA guy, and that just seemed a bit crazy, really. But so many professional gamblers were talking afterwards about how they had their biggest bet ever and they would have been broke if it had gone wrong. I certainly didn't do that, but I did have quite a few quid on. It was quite a big bet for me at the time, I think. I don't think I'll be getting involved in this one.
Well, this fight's 8 rounds, 10-ounce gloves, so it's there it is. But I'm just looking at the fight before Mike Tyson. You're absolutely right. It was Joe Bugner. He fought Joe Bugner, and then he went straight in with Mike Tyson. That was an aging Joe Bugner.
Was like he was he was getting his pension at that time, wasn't he?
He'd been in with Ali. He'd been in with Ali, and
he'd been in with Ali like
20 years earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then. And then next fight, Mike Tyson. I remember the fight. It was at Las Vegas Hilton. It was the very first fight ever live on Sky Sports. That fight. It was on the 25th of February, 1989. And I always remember it because my dad was working at Ladbrokes at the time, and Ladbrokes were the only people that had Sky Sports. And their managing director or CEO at the time was a guy called Burgess Darver. Do you remember Burgess Darver, the
I
CEO
definitely
of Ladbrokes?
do. I remember his son. If you're watching, ring me.
Yeah. Well, Burgess Darver allowed us to go, like people to go into the office, the boardroom, to watch the fight. And my dad, I woke up, me and my 2 brothers. So my little brother must have only been about 11. I was about 16, and my older brother was about 22. And we all got in the car and watched the fight in Burgess Darver's, Ladbrokes' managing director's
Yeah, it was
office.
definitely like 3 or 4 in the morning, wasn't it? I think it was on the radio.
Yeah, it's 4 in the morning, yeah. He done him in the 5th round, and then the BBC commentary, Harry Carpenter's in the 2nd round when he caught. Get in there, Frank, at the end of the 1st or 2nd.
I remember I booked some bets on it totally illegally. I booked a bunch of bets to people in a bar that I used to go. It worked out quite well.
Yeah. And that shows you how much boxing has changed. That the big fight now is Jake Paul against Anthony Joshua. Poor Anthony Joshua. I mean, Anthony Joshua. I mean, he's apart from money, which is the only thing it can be. Why would you want to take that fight? Yeah. But anyway, the early betting out is minus $15 for AJ. $8.
Yeah, leave me out of that one. Paul. I think I don't mind betting the minus 1,500, but I'd rather do it on the 3 test matches not being a draw this week.
Yeah. One thing that you might want to be betting this weekend is our final little thing we're going to talk about, and that is
Heart Attack. We haven't talked about because obviously they didn't play, did they? Yeah.
We need to bounce back a little bit after disappointment last time out. They travel to Aberdeen this weekend. Now, Aberdeen aren't doing very well, but I think this is a tough trip, and I think these are the kind of matches that you need to win if you're going to win the title. This match is on Sunday, and Hearts are just under even money, so around about minus 110. A little bit of money for them in the build up to it. Aberdeen around about 3-1. The draw, which we don't want to talk about the draw. There isn't any draws anymore. But at Hearts, will you be betting Hearts at minus 110 now?
I expect I probably will. The other 2 are quite short this week, aren't they? I think Celtic are away from home, and I can't remember now. I did look. They were trading close to minus 200, weren't they? And
that's correct.
Rangers had a pretty easy home game. They're about minus 500, weren't they? Minus 600 maybe.
Yes, and that's right there against Livingston. So the advantage for Hearts is they know exactly what they've got to win anyway, but they know exactly what to do because they go second. I like to go second in title races.
Yeah.
So the other boys are going first, Hearts going seconds, and they're minus 105 if you want to follow that in as well.
I think you'd be happy. You'd be happy if on the Saturday one of the big 2 Glasgow teams gets a draw, just one out of the 2, and then Hearts win on Sunday. That would be a very good weekend for Hearts, I should think.
One thing we didn't mention as well, and we talked about the World Cup and what a crazy World Cup was. Did you see what about the Republic of Ireland win? They needed to win the last 2 matches to have any chance to get through. They beat Portugal 2-0, and they're training 2-1 in Hungary, one of the most formidable places in the world. And Parrott scores a hat trick the last kick of the game. What an incredible,
incredible 3-2.
turnaround.
Yeah,
talking about in running play, that would have been anything.
Yeah, that would have been great. Yeah, no, I did see that. That was rather good. Yeah, lovely.
Now, the tennis season might be over here on the Betting Weekly Studios, but the action never stops. As I say, we're back this week with Betting Weekly Premier League, Betting Weekly Extra Time returns as well. And also the Champions League returns next week. And the week after, the teams, you want to fade all the teams in the Champions League. It's very easy. That's what we're going to do on this channel. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, as I said at the top of the show. If you've got any questions or any comments or anything you want us to talk about, we're more than happy to talk about them here on the dojo. And if you haven't caught the latest Betting Weekly Betting Zoo with Steve Wish's Betting Zoo with Jack, I'm having a nightmare. If you haven't caught the betting. Steve Wish's Betting Zoo with Will White. I was going to say Jack White with Betting Zoo. Make sure you do. It's available on the YouTube channel to watch and subscribe to as well now. Neil, that was easy for me to say, wasn't it? Thank you very much for your time. Yeah, thank you very much for your time.
Cheers.
That's it for this week's Betting Weekly Dojo. Lots more content coming your way here on the channel. Please hit the subscribe, and we'll speak to you all again next week. Take care.